In early October, President Biden pardoned thousands of people convicted of possessing marijuana as a federal crime.
Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to marijuana. It's time that we right these wrongs.
But what's potentially bigger than those pardons was Biden's announcement of his goal to move marijuana out of its Schedule 1 drug classification.
So I'm asking the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to initiate a process to review how marijuana is scheduled under federal law.
So it's not about pardons, it's not about expungement, it's not about how many people are pardoned, it's not about how many people are expunged. It's the fact that the most powerful elected official in the United States said that marijuana prohibition was a failure. In fact, it was such a great failure that he was using his executive power to try to do something about it, to change it.
Marijuana's Schedule 1 label is part of a system used by the DEA to categorize different drugs.
Substances that are in Schedule 1, by definition, under the law, must meet three distinct criteria. They must possess a high potential for abuse. They must have no accepted medical utility in the United States. And they must be determined to be so unsafe for human consumption that they could not be safely administered even within a controlled, regulated setting, like a hospital. I don't think you would find a consensus among any group of Americans anywhere in this country today that marijuana meets even one of those three criteria, much less all three of those criteria.
Essentially, marijuana's Schedule 1 label could be seen as a bit of a hard line. Biden agrees.
The federal government currently classifies marijuana as a Schedule 1 substance, the same as heroin and LSD, and more serious than fentanyl. It makes no sense.
And the general public agrees as well.
Views towards marijuana have been one of the fastest shifting issues in American politics in recent decades. As recently as the late 1990s, only about a quarter of Americans supported legalizing small amounts of marijuana. But a poll from Monmouth University after Biden's announcement found that nearly 7 in 10 Americans supported legalizing small amounts.
The question becomes, what would the path to deschedulization look like, and how long would it take?
There are three requisite agencies that are involved in the process: the Attorney General's Office, HHS, and DEA. So essentially, what is going to happen is that representatives from all of these agencies are going to undergo a review of the available scientific literature. And then eventually, when they've reviewed the data and they've answered these questions, they're going to publish a report of their findings. And that report is going to either recommend cannabis stay in Schedule 1, is moved to a lower schedule, or is descheduled. As far as the timeline goes, look, we've seen in the past, this process takes many, many years.
A host of states have legalized the substance. And this November, Arkansas, Maryland, Missouri, as well as North and South Dakota will also decide on recreational marijuana's legality at the state level.
As marijuana legalization has gained support over the years, many states have moved forward with legalization either for medicinal or recreational use.
There is a recognition that at the end of the day, the federal government has to institute changes to comport what the states are doing with federal law.
Behind the push to legalize marijuana is a massive social equity argument fueling the movement.
While white and black and brown people use marijuana at similar rates, black and brown people are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportionately higher rates.
It's arguably the first time we've seen a president speak so critically about marijuana policy. He made it clear in his remarks that criminalizing those who possess marijuana is a failed public policy. He elevated this discussion. He legitimized marijuana policy reform as a valid political issue.